Well, this is quite the revelation for a Tuesday afternoon. With the return of dev updates for Payday 3, we have received an absolutely massive influx of news regarding the future of free content for the game that's coming in patch 2.0 and beyond. After an unbelievable drought following the game's beleaguered launch in September, it seems to me that quite a few of those missing updates are being rolled into one here, as what we're getting, according to the community team, is beyond my wildest expectations. For a quick synopsis, seemingly in just the second update, we're getting 2 returning classic heists from Payday 2, the return of one of the most popular contractors, hell, maybe even characters in the entire franchise, actual first-person animations when interacting with objectives, and the most requested change, infamy points will now always be earned simply by completing a heist, mimicking Payday 2's progression system. And that's all just scratching the surface of what seems to be in the pipeline for Payday 3 in the near future. As is customary on the channel, this video is going to break down every detail we saw in the dev update, so you know what to expect come patch day to work out if Payday 3 really is back this time. First of all, it's just nice to see these dev updates back on our screens. If you ask me, we could have done with more over Payday 2's development cycle, and with the spotty communication since Payday 3's launch, this kind of transparent approach is more of what we need. Speaking of which, this video starts with Andreas, the lead producer on the game, getting in front of the camera to personally explain what went on with Payday 3's torrid launch. We don't learn much new here, as he pretty much says verbatim what was published on the Starbreeze website regarding a critical error in their back-end update pipeline, which could have resulted in everyone's server-stored progression being wiped had the initial update 1 gone live on October the 5th as planned. This led to the system they had in place being overhauled, which was time-consuming, and when compounded with the console certification process, resulted in the update being almost a month late, and I personally was just starting to worry about Update 2 suffering a similar fate, until this video came out to assuage my concerns. More importantly though, moving forward, I'm hoping things are truly ironed out, because the content that's been teased in this video looks simply magnificent. Starting off strong, Cook-Off, the iconic first day of rats from Payday 2's launch, is returning alongside Murky Station, one of the hardcore Henry tie-in heists that had us stealing EMP parts in the dead of night. These heists have been more than just remade for Payday 3 within Unreal, as it seems the map layouts, objective design, and narrative context have been updated to fit seamlessly. For example, this scaffolding staircase has been added to the rear of Cook-Off's meth lab to add more routes in and out, whilst climbable debris and gangplanks have been added to Murky Station to enable more vertical traversal of the heist and likely work around Payday 3's new casing mode. Each heist looks absolutely fantastic in Unreal, both capturing the moody late-night atmosphere they always had, but going above and beyond in terms of detail and backdrop fidelity. Going on a deeper dive into each one individually, Cook-Off's return is the least surprising to me. It was a fan favourite heist containing an iconic mechanic that was well liked from Payday 2 and should translate well into the next generation. It appears to be a fairly faithful recreation, if a little more spacious than what we're used to. As was confirmed by Gustavo, the lead composer, when discussing the music of this heist, it's still going to revolve around drugs in some way, so I anticipate we'll be cooking up a meth storm once again. I think it'll be interesting to see how they implement the meth cooking gameplay, and I hope there will be some mechanical curveballs in terms of how objectives are executed on this one. Assumedly, it will be Payday 3's first endless heist though, so more important than anything, the map's combat flow must be perfect to keep that addictive loop going indefinitely if it's going to have the staying power of Payday 2's rendition of this heist. Big Bathroom might finally have some competition. I'm also going to be paying close attention to how this heist is balanced in terms of potential IP per minute, seeing as infamy points and progression are also being changed with this upcoming update. I think it's distinctly possible that we're looking at the new king of the infamy grind once more. As for Murky Station, this one was much more out of left field to me, but is certainly not an unwelcome surprise. From the showcase gameplay, it does look like this heist might be returning as a stealth-only one, the first of its kind in Payday 3. But I'm more than happy to see that if this is the case, as this was probably my favourite stealth heist from the second game. I think its map layout prompted some of the most interesting movement back in the day, so I'm hopeful this is something that can be replicated in the sequel, and we won't be limited in how much we can traverse this heist by the new secure area mechanic. And it looks like we might finally be able to get to shoot those pesky drones out of the sky, which is a nice improvement, finally giving us some counterplay there. The overall layout of the heist looks broadly similar, with that multi-level map design which prompted less linear stealth gameplay, and if anything, plays even better into Payday 3's more free-flowing stealth design. I truly believe that stealth is the system that's improved the most between the two games, so I'm thinking this is a perfect opportunity to showcase exactly how those new mechanics can be highlighted within a familiar setting. I'm really excited to see how they pull this one off. What probably intrigues me most, though, is how these heists are going to fit into the narrative of the game. From the backdrops, it looks likely that they could be found within their original locations, meaning we might already be leaving behind New York for DC, although it seems clear from the appearance of the guards on this heist that Murky Water won't be fronting Murky Station this time around, despite the heist's apparent name. Speaking of the lore ramifications, I'm even more intrigued by the identity of the returning character who will be offering these heists as a new contractor. It's none other than Ian Russell's fan-favourite South African, Locke, who looks like he was on the receiving end of quite the assassination attempt, losing an eye in the process. A lot of thought has gone into his new design, as these scars make Locke an even more rugged-looking ex-merc in Payday 3, but crucially, he's maintained that iconic beret. Also, my guess reading into what Almir says is that he'll be the handler on these heists as well as their contractor, meaning even more Payday 2 nostalgia for us. If these heists do take place outside of New York, I'd love to see more regional handlers being properly considered in the future to add even more variety and personality to the heists we take on. Of course, it wouldn't be a new or returning Payday heist without the music to accompany it, and from what we're hearing in the background of the dev update, we have a lot to look forward to. These heists are coming to Payday 3 alongside brand new Gustavo compositions, as opposed to the likes of Pulse returning from Payday 2. On one hand, it's a shame we don't have the option to listen to Simon Vicklin's original music for the heist, and with this decision in mind, I wouldn't expect to see his returning tracks anytime soon, which is understandable when we consider his new studio, 10 Chambers, are working on their own untitled heisting game as we speak. Maybe in the future we'll see some collaboration between these two new genre competitors, but for the time being, I'm more than happy to listen to more Gustavo originals, as it sounds like he's really gone into the core of what makes these heists great when creating tunes to accompany them. Truly, maybe my expectations were just set to highly realistic. This is already more than I ever dared to dream of for Payday 3, but it gets even better from here with the addition of new first-person animations for major interactions in the game. So far, we've only seen them used for objectives, with typing added to PC hacks, which I must admit I noticed during the Joy and Pearl trailers but forgot to mention, keycards being physically scanned, and buttons actually pressed. These all look really slick and do so much to link the gameplay to the actual interactions of the heisters, likely doing wonders for your immersion. My only hope is that there are also some new animations for actions like bagging loot and reviving allies, as these weren't shown off here but would have a similarly huge impact on game feel. Regardless, I expect these additions are going to add a lot of life to the game, being one of the most requested features early on, and I must confess I wasn't expecting to receive this sort of visual overhaul so early into the game's life, meaning I am hugely excited. Similarly exciting is the brand new Transporter skill line. We've known this one was coming to the game for a while, and data miners did leak the work in progress skill names and effects already, but now it seems that we can actually discuss them properly. The tree is essentially focused on loot bag mechanics, allowing you to pick up loot bags for rush and grit, carry bags faster, throw them further, and carry multiple bags up to a max of 2 at a time. Taken at face value, this is an excellent and highly requested addition, although I do worry that it'll result in some slightly degenerate bag strats for skill buffs that will circumvent playing around objectives as intended. I'm also slightly concerned that having a tier 1 skill that needs to be picked up to run the rest of the line, involving potentially losing grit or rush when you throw a bag, might make all other skills in the line inaccessible to any build that specifically revolves around wanting to maintain those buffs. Obviously, we'll have to see how this plays out in game, and I'm still very interested in what appears to be a powerful objective-orientated utility belt, but I do think it runs the risk of either being meta for all builds, or a complete noob trap, nothing in between. Although maybe, for multi-bag carrying, this is a price I'm willing to pay. I think for most players though, despite the already huge scope of this update so far, it all pales in comparison to what I'm going to talk about next. That's right, after all our feedback, we're seeing an update to general progression and the challenge system. As of Update 2, infamy points will now be granted upon every heist completion, not just drip-fed upon reaching certain landmarks. This means that you'll always feel like you're tangibly moving towards whatever goal you have, as well as smoothing out the leveling curve so it doesn't feel quite as painful later into the grind. This should be a huge improvement upon the launch system. Obviously, we'll have to see how well the IP reward is scaled to the difficulty you played on, and how each heist rewards you relative to the others before we start shouting from the rooftops that progression is fixed, and I do seriously hope that loot secure percentage is also tied to the size of the reward, so that pure speed heisting playstyles aren't overly favoured for fast levels, but taking things at face value, this seems like a phenomenal change that will go a long way to improve most players' experience with the game. Of course, once this change goes live, I'll be coming out with a newly refreshed guide on how to level optimally, but my true hope is that optimality is far less necessary under the new system than it was at launch. Also tied to progression, it seems that the challenge menu UI is getting a much needed update. I do like the idea of recommended challenges popping up pre-heist, but this is a band-aid fix on its own. If this is ever going to become a more approachable, true hybrid system, we still need full search and filter functionality, which I hope is also added in the future, if not as soon as this update goes live. I know most people would probably prefer it if we just went right back to Payday 2's progression system at this point, but I still think there's some value in trying to build and improve upon that, which might just end up being hybrid leveling. That's it for all the major additions that the guys actually discussed in this update video, but the eagle-eyed amongst you will have been looking for any other details we can glean from the gameplay, and courtesy of Car 4 enjoyer, Mariona Top Hat, he just might have spotted a juicy one. From this clip, it seems that either the Car 4 is getting massive fire rate buffs, or maybe we're receiving an early look at an AR conversion kit, allowing me to run them more like SMGs, potentially adding a ton of playstyle versatility. Worth paying attention to, but absolutely nothing more than speculation on our part at the moment. So that's a decently thorough breakdown of the dev update, leaving us with just one fairly important unanswered question. When's update 2 actually coming out? Sadly, we don't know, and Starbreeze seem a little hesitant to commit to any dates at the moment after what happened last time. What I will say is that they wouldn't want this update video to be released too far out from the update itself, so I'd say it's either already gone or is close to going out for console certification, meaning within the next fortnight would be a reasonable expectation to set. The update itself looks tremendous and has a far wider scope than most of us ever anticipated, but I won't be in full celebration mode until it's actually live and installed on my PC. I'm also not allowing the excitement of the patch to make me forget that the bloody game should have just released with all this content already, but I have to admit, this clearly is the right road to bring Payday 3 from dead game back to live service, as was the business plan. Thanks so much for watching this video, see you soon, hopefully with more Update 2 news. A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.